Hey, I'm Guy.
I'm John.
It's our YouTube channel. Subscribe to it. Give this video a like.
Podcast below in the description. Get on that as well. Do it now.
So, Zach Wilson, there were some comments made by his head coach at BYU, Kalani Sitake, to the, I think, the New York Post. The questions were about whether or not he could handle New York. It was just a wide-ranging interview. He said a lot of stuff. Draft him and find out. I recruited him. I recruited him late. It's one of the best decisions I ever made. Ask me what his best trait is. You ready for this one, John? It's difficult to answer because I think he's got everything you need. He's got the work ethic. He's got the IQ. He's got the study habits, the knowledge of the game. He's got presence, the demeanor, the arm strength, the leg strength, and ability to create space and use his athleticism.
You know, it makes me laugh because like Hunter Henry says he wants to go to a place that pays him a lot of money as a sweet quarterback. It's like, yeah, what kind of wife are you looking for? I want her to be hot, skinny, rich, cooks, cleans, cool as shit.
Right.
A lot of cool friends, but cool with letting me do whatever I want. Again, did I say has money, smart, great motherly instincts? Like, yeah, I mean, you're just listing every great quality every human would look for in a quarterback. You know?
Yeah, it
Is
sounds
this guy
like
the perfect player?
It sounds like a Valentine's Day card.
I
You're
know.
Like 17 years old. It's like, oh, you got everything.
Yeah, it's hard to blame him, right? I mean, this guy, I'd say, really put their program like they're a national program, but I'd say this year they took them to another level, right? In terms of buzz, the way we talked about it,
BYU
drawing eyeballs.
Great. Kalani Sitake, they benefited greatly from Zach Wilson being the quarterback there.
And I don't think they're done benefiting, right? I think it's going to go up dramatically if he goes They have the number 2 pick, and you and I argued about this a little bit, or just at least talked about it in the season. I do think when you have a star quarterback, obviously once he's playing well in the league, but when you have a guy that gets drafted number 2 overall, just that draft pick alone changes the perception of you as a recruiter immediately. That's a big deal.
Especially
right?
Especially if he's good as a pro.
What if he goes to the Jets and he's good?
Yeah.
Like, that's a game changer for the program.
Right. But if you're the head coach, just having the guy drafted really high is once he's gone, that's not right. When you sit down in the living room, you go, look, we just had a guy drafted number 2, so you can come here. That's the important sell. You can come here and we can get you to the top of the draft. So if Zach Wilson never throws an NFL touchdown, but he's the number 2 overall pick, to your point, it's a huge win for BYU, right? Yep. That's what all these guys sell on is we know how to get you to the league. So, I bring that up because part of me thinks, well, if you're Kalani Sitake, you'd want him to go to the place where he can be the most successful. But really what you want, you'd rather him go 2 to the Jets than 20. Now, you would, if he's got a 15-year NFL career, that's also great for you, right? Yeah. Like, I think Herbert for Oregon is the best of all the worlds because he's on the West Coast. He's balling. He was drafted high, and then he has a great year.
Yeah.
Right.
But
like ideally,
Mariota wasn't bad for Oregon, and that hasn't.
Mariota was incredible for Oregon.
Yeah, I'm talking about
they've got a shrine to him in their facility.
But I'm talking once he got to the league, he was starting quarterback for a while. So even if Zach Wilson's career is Mariota, just going number 2 overall, that just helped change the perception, right?
Yeah.
This is what I was taught before I left the building to go scout, and you're just getting all these notes of like what to look for and what to do. And I had known a little bit from being the guy when you went to a school that told the person, but I was just trying to get in so bad I was telling them all the good dirt. Like I wasn't giving them any PC information. Sometimes like I'd be given information on
when
a kid.
When you worked for the college.
Yeah, at Fresno State. Sometimes a coach would come through and I'd kind of calm down a little bit. Like I just knew they get very sensitive to their players. They were emotional about their guys. I wasn't. Now, we had a bunch of good guys. It wasn't like you're going to crush like Shea Ajero-Tutu or Kenny Wiggins. So it wasn't like there wasn't much negative to say. We didn't have that many first rounds.
Kenny Wiggins going on like 10 years in the league.
Well, he is. Bryce Harris had a long, like decade-long career. When you have these players and a quarterback that is going to go number 2, you're nitpicking that guy to all levels. And I have heard things that there were some Josh Rosen-like vibes. Really rich kid. This is what's coming out of the program.
Who used the line? Who used the three-car garage line? Was that Russillo?
You never want a quarterback come from a 3-car garage?
Yeah, somebody said that about Zach Wilson, like one of the 3-car garage.
That's a pretty good one. How many slots do your parents have?
We've got a carport, so 0-car garage.
Oh, gotcha.
Almost spilled a coffee. Celebrating my blue collar roots.
Yeah, I'm trying to. I mean, 3-car garage is pretty big. I'm trying to think. I didn't know that many people growing up with 3-car garage. 2 cars a lot.
Maybe it's a 2-car. I don't know. But I just love that shorthand for rich kid with 3-car.
Well, but that was a knock on him, and I've never met him. That just is out there in the scouting universe, and I think sometimes. But I was thinking this the other day that just the standard that we hold young people to, at least in the sector we're in, talking about young athletes because they get so much money, it's really unfair. Like I think of just how much I've matured from 30 to 36, let alone 21 to 30, right? And I didn't have any money when I was in my 20s. I can't imagine the maturity that these kids happen, but just sometimes growth, you have to mature a little faster. Like just being a normal college kid, you can do whatever you want. I saw when I was working at Fresno State, I do think in that environment, you just kind of, as you get to your junior and senior year, sometimes people just grow as people, right? When there's pressure on you, once you start playing and once you start being quarterback, I do wonder the vibe on him coming into this season. Maybe it changed this year. I will say I watched a lot of BYU, more than I ever have. Those two, the Romney's grandson or uncle or nephew or whatever, and the other speedy white guy, they all seem to be on the same page and like each other a lot, and they're all going pro. Like it didn't feel like they were having success, but it did feel like his unit, they were all pretty close whenever they were on the sideline. So I wonder if things can be true the first couple years that rub people the wrong way or just tough or arrogant or whatever, and a guy matures. I do think that it's very, very possible. But we are going to read things are going to come out about this guy, like Josh Rosen. Remember, because when that came fast and furious. And a lot of people pushed back on it, and they've proven dead right?
Well, I guess. I mean, we don't know. Wait, who's been proven right? The people
I'm just
who
saying,
said it didn't matter, or the people that said it did?
It was proven like that wasn't fake. That existed, all the stuff about him. Did he fail because he was not good enough?
Rosen. Yeah. Who? But I don't know. I mean, do you think we know why it hasn't worked for Rosen? Can we attribute it to something?
Yeah, I'd say it's more that he can't move, and
here's what we know. Yeah, I mean, this isn't really a Niners conversation, but Kyle Shanahan brought Rosen into the building.
Arians, Tom Brady liked him, so it's like, yeah, I'd say. But
and where you go as a pro also matters.
It was traded within a year, but
I just mean for Zach Wilson. What environment do you go to? What head coach do you go to? What offensive coordinator do you go to? Do you have
for sure, a lot of stuff's out of your control.
And it can help you.
Here's the thing. Back to BYU. When you go, and have you been there before?
No, called a road game his freshman year.
I mean, when you go there, just in their athletic department, there are rules in the program that, like, I can walk into USC with you can't take coffee into the building. Like, it's just. It is in defense of Zach, and I don't know if he's LDS or not. I don't know, but regardless, that is the environment there. It's a lot more like a guy that they may love at USC. If you put him at BYU or Oregon or Alabama, they could not function at BYU. So I think a lot of NFL coaches would go, I couldn't function at fucking BYU, right? Bruce Arians would be the first to tell you that. Kyle couldn't. Like, Drinker, it's just. So they might be holding him to a standard, the people he's talking to, that people in the NFL might not even care once they really dig into it, right?
Yeah, they might not.
But I think one of the things with Josh Rosen was people didn't like him, right? I remember someone told me this. They couldn't find a guy at the program that would say a good word about him.
Well, that's a major. Now that's a major problem.
Yeah.
And I would venture to say this: if that is the case with Zach Wilson, then I think it's hard for him to go number 2. Especially given what we saw with Carson.
And that's where I'm saying I think the information is not that bad. Because I don't think it's nearly as bad as Josh Rosen.
Because it feels like he's being solidified at number 2.
He is a much better, more unique player than Josh.
He's more talented. Just athletically gifted, maybe is the better way to say it.
But I think ideally, and this is where I would be if I was a GM, if I was Joe Douglas, and let's just use, I don't know anything about Trey Lance really, but let's use Justin Fields and Trevor Lawrence. I think it's fair to say if you walked into Ohio State and Clemson, 2 places that are basically NFL light, right? The things you'd be hearing about these 2 guys would be like, God, this fucking guy, people love this guy there. And you just start comparing the different guys that have come out. They're like, God, they hold him to this esteem. And Dabo would be like, I'm telling you, he's like Deshaun Watson 2.0. You go into Ryan Day, he's like, hey, he's the best player. Urban told me he's the highest character guy that we've ever seen.
Well, that's why on the record, especially head coach, but on the record is just not. Kalani Sitake, everything he said might be true. Just like when Dabo Swinney said, you're crazy, you got to draft this guy. When Dabo said that about Deshaun Watson. How long
has Kalani been there his whole time? Or is this his second?
Kalani's been there several years. He was on the hot seat a couple of years ago. So in some ways.
Did he go from Oregon State?
Yes,
I think about a different guy.
so.
I think he was. He was like
But
Oregon
he's a
State's run
BYU guy. Like he was.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Him and
But
Kyle
that's what I'm saying. Like
Whittingham.
their standards, even with Bronco, because they look who they hire. Like they wouldn't hire like Middlecoff, or the random dude at Oregon. Like they hire because it is.
He came from Oregon State, but he'd been a long time at Utah because him and Kyle Whittingham are great friends. They're both BYU guys.
It is just, I think, difficult for outsiders, some of their rules. Like no coffee, coaches? I mean, they're working like 15, 20 hours a week.
I know. He said he'd be there late at night, and Zach Wilson would be there late at night. But again, back to the point is, I think we just view this so skeptically when a head coach says it. I know from talking to head coaches, like if I'm preparing for a game, sometimes you'll ask a head coach about a guy, and it's clear they don't know anything about the guy. Like, oh, tell me about Henderson. Like, oh yeah, Henderson. They probably haven't talked to him in 3 weeks. But
you're saying a guy on their own team?
Yeah, I'm saying a head coach, his job, like the coordinators, the position coaches, sometimes. And I'm not saying that's the case with Kalani and Zach. I'm just saying, to your original point about when you did scouting, you might talk to a coach who lies about his guy to cover for him. You might talk to a coach who doesn't actually really know the guy that well, right? Depending on the position the coach is around, the group the coach is around, the coaches have a lot of stuff to do that isn't.
It'd be impossible with a quarterback. Like the head coach going to know him, everyone's going to know him.
Yeah, yep.
But there can be guys that might be a first rounder that for whatever reason that coach and him don't like each other. And think about this: if I take a random guy, Jimmy, and I know Jimmy and you know Jimmy. Well, if the first time you ever meet Jimmy is like out to dinner with some friends and Jimmy's kind of being a dick to you, or let's say he's being a dick to Alyssa, it's just acting weird. What do you think if I ask you a week later, like, what do you think of Jimmy? You probably wouldn't really like him.
Yeah.
Where if I've been a Jimmy, one day I played golf with him, he paid for my golf, bought me some beers, I'd be like, I fucking love this guy. But I think you have to look at, and that's the hard part with scouting. It's like, what is this guy? The head coach usually big picture agenda, right? And I think sometimes with the coordinators, but sometimes the coach, if someone rubs you wrong, it's hard. This is why you need to talk to as many humans as possible and then take like the overview. Like that's where if like Zach Wilson, the first people I'd be going to would be like the training staff, the equipment staff, the academic people, because when he's around them, he's not quite going to be on point as he would around the head coach or the coordinator, right? Maybe and if maybe the academics lady was like, you know what? He's actually as kind of a guy. I got married. He brought me a present. He'd be like, this guy is pretty thoughtful. Or it could go I've heard it go the other way, where he's like, he's just kind of a dick to women. I'm not using Zach Wilson as this, but you've heard these stories, and that gets around to your head coach.
People don't have a lot of interest in lying for people they don't like.
No, they have none. And the people you have to ask are the people that kid at the time is going to think it doesn't matter.
But here's what I would also say. You're right. It's in Kalani Sitake's best interest for Zach Wilson to get drafted second. But at the end of the day, his quotes are out there now. Like everything he said, telling everybody what a great guy he is. At some point in time, right, if Zach Wilson's not the guy that he's saying he is, that does come back on him.
100%.
So it's not like a total free pass, which is just constantly tell everybody your guys are all the greatest, and then no, because you want people to believe you when you say one of your guys. Right, you say it about everybody. You're the boy who cried wolf.
And most of the time, I'd say 99% at that program, he's vouching for super high character guys.
Well, to me, it's a similarity with David Shaw, who David does not just Stanford puts a lot of guys in the pros every year. You don't hear Shaw all the time talking about everybody, but he's been on the draft historically every year. I don't know. I don't think he will be this year, but. When Christian McCaffrey came out, he told everybody, this guy.
He pounded the table for him.
You guys are crazy if you think he can't run between the tackles. And he was right.
Yeah.
So I do think it is in Kalani Sitake's best interest to say what he believes. And in the case where he believes it and it's all positive, it's nothing but a win for him. But so, by the way, does it feel, I don't want to use the word lock, things change, does it feel like this guy's the second pick in the draft at this point?
Yeah, because I think the more teams are digging, it's probably not as bad as originally thought, and things improve. But I do know when the season early got on in his like first couple games, and I'm like, God, you guys seen this kid? Because remember, they had played, they went like 11-0 or 12-0 or 12-1, right? They played a bunch of games.
Coastal was the only.
Yeah, so they ended up playing like I think 11 games. They played the most games by far. of all the teams that were playing early on in the season, and they were one of the only West Coast teams. That
I remember they were like 7-0, and it's like ASU kicks off tomorrow.
Exactly.
What?
So I think he had this momentum where other players like out here, you have this group of several teams out here. There's just no buzz because no one's except him. And I just think early digging wasn't great, but that could have been based on the past. And then this year went good. And I just think you're going to have to, again, quarterbacks get nitpicked, right? That's part of it. Like I want my quarterback to be like Herbert or Burrow or Josh Allen. Like I don't want into Baker Mayfield, right? If I can avoid it. Like I don't even, and even he's not that bad, but he's a little pain in their ass early on. Yeah, I want nobody cares, work harder. Like what do I it's on me. I keep fucking up. Like I think Lamar's kind of set the bar of like, God, even if you didn't like him as a draft prospect, how do you not root for, like, that's what every team roots for in a player. Pat Mahomes, like his comment after the Super Bowl, he's like, this will drive me the rest of my life. And you're like, I don't think he's lying. You know?
Yeah.
I do think that there's been a recent run of really high character quarterbacks that are good that just kind of force the issue. Like no one wants to, if you got to deal with Antonio Brown, you got to deal with Antonio Brown. I cannot, and I'm not saying Zach Wilson's this, but I think it's the last thing in the world if you're a general manager you can even think about staking your career on.
Yeah. Humility is the new arrogance when it comes to quarterbacks, John.
Yeah. Arrogant between the lines.
That's right. Competitive arrogance.
Yeah.